up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for November 14th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Eagles Game Day, a rare Thursday edition game day for the Birds. Eagles Washington down tonight at the Linc. Before we get into that, let's do a couple quick housekeeping things. First, follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont at Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram at PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. And continue to spread the word. Again, if you're enjoying it, likely someone else in your circle will. We continue to do great things here. We were featured once again in the On Pattison newsletter. Seems like we're going to be there once or twice a week, so give them a look up on Pattison. Subscribe to the newsletter, and we're in there at least once a week. So pretty cool that we're getting the recognition for that. The Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame Heritage Collection is now available online. That's the project I've been working on. Everything you need is in the description for that. Pretty cool. I will be updating it today with some pictures from the traveling exhibit that we had set up at the induction ceremony last week. And then speaking of the induction ceremony, the full ceremony, the video is now available on YouTube. The link to it is in the description as well. So go check that out. You can see some of the cool speeches and just, like I said, a lot of the speeches were very inspiring. So go check that out and see Dan Baker introduce Chase Utley and Ryan Howard one last time as well. All that is in the description. And I was feeling in a good mood yesterday, so I decided to open up the food and gift drive a couple days early. I was going to kick it off on Sunday, but that link is live. There's a link to the GoFundMe in there if you want to. I keep saying we're doing a two-pronged approach. So right now the gift card drive is open. The GoFundMe is in there. Already have some donations coming in, so thank you for that. But let's blow what we did last year out of the water. I think we had $200 in gift cards, and then had a ton of food and supplies that we took over. So that will be the second prong. Details on that with the reverse advent calendar will be coming soon. Again, it's something very cool to do with your kids. My kids really enjoy collecting the items and getting them and then taking them over. They get a kick out of that. So that'll be starting December 1st. But we are live, up, and running for the gift card drive. The link to the GoFundMe is in there. If you want to donate directly to the Maddie Ann Dixon Community Cupboard in Ambler, that is fine. Just mention us. But I'm very excited for year 2 of this, and I think this is going to be much bigger and much better than we had last year. So go check that out, and I thank you in advance. All right, let's get into this game. But first, let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, is this 2024 Eagles team a likable one? 81% of you said yes, and I think compared to where we were this time last year, this team is much more likable. I don't know if they're quite to the 2017 and 2022 levels yet, but they're getting there. I mean, if you haven't done so, check it out. C.J. Gardner-Johnson singing to Cooper DeJean on the sideline. Those are the things that are pretty cool. Their celebrations and everything. I just really like this team. So thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. It's game day, so you know what today's question is going to be later in the show. Zach Bond was NFC Defensive Player of the Week. He's just been playing lights out, and we're going to need him for tonight's game. Definitely him and Nakobe Dean. But let's check out the line. 3.5, and the over-under is 48.5, and that's a tough line. And I'll get into that when we get to the pick, but that hook is really giving me pause here. Don't want to give away what my pick is. But from an injury standpoint, does look like the Eagles are going to be relatively healthy. Jordan Mailata was brought off of the injured reserve. Looks like he's set to play. That should be a huge help for the offensive line. The guys that filled in for him did a phenomenal job. So it's good for them to get that experience, but it's nice to have old Jordan back tonight. For Washington, it looks like they're going to be relatively healthy too. I read or just heard this morning, looks like Brian Robinson Jr. will be back. And no Marshawn Lattimore. He's still banged up, hasn't played since Washington traded for him. It's a huge break for the Eagles. Now, let's get into the 3 keys. Key Bank, if you're listening, still looking for a sponsor, just throwing it out there. If you know somebody that has a car dealership that wants to sponsor the 3 keys to the game, tell them to hit me up. But I think first and foremost is the first meeting with Jaden Daniels, and I think you got to contain him, and it's going to be tough. But last week, Pittsburgh did a pretty good job keeping him in check from running, and they were able to come out and win the game. So, that falls right on the Kobe and Zach Bond. They need to make sure they're tackling. I think that's during this little 5-game winning streak. I shouldn't say little, but during this 5-game winning streak, that's been the difference. They've been tackling, wrapping up, no missed tackles. You're going to have to get him and not let him escape the tackles. And I think there's no reason to believe that they won't do that, but I think that is huge. It's just containing Jaden Daniels. He is probably the most mobile quarterback the Eagles have faced this year. So they're going to have their work cut out for him, but limit the damage that Jaden Daniels does with his legs, I think. And not that he's a bad passer, but I think force him to pass and let your secondary really get it. So I've been saying it all year. Do your job. If you have contain. If you're this gap, stay in your gap and do your job, and they should be okay with this. Key number 2. I think you got to take advantage of Washington's defense. Yes, they're not that good against the run, but their secondary is not good, which is why they had to go and trade for Marshawn Lattimore, who is not playing. Both starting corners ranked near the bottom on Pro Football Focus. So take advantage of that. AJ, Devontae need to have big games. AJ has been a Washington killer since he came in. Just has completely dominated them. I need to see that continue. I know we want to be a run-first team, and we should be able to establish the run early to set up the pass. But Jalen's due for a 300-yard passing game, and I think this is the game that he could very easily do that, and I think that plays the Eagles' strength right into the weakness of Washington. So you got to take advantage of that. Build a lead and then just pound it old school style with Saquon. This is the Jahan Dotson revenge game. I'd like to see him get more involved. He had that nice catch last week. I want to see him continue to build on this. But I think this winning streak has been built and backed by running the ball. I'm not saying don't run the ball. I'm saying take advantage because the opportunities are going to be there. And AJ, like I said, has killed Washington, so we need to make sure that he continues to do that. And by the same token, I should have mentioned this with the first key containing Jaden Daniels. I'm looking forward to seeing Quinyon Mitchell versus Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin has been an Eagles killer, so I'm really looking forward to that matchup. But I think from the Eagles standpoint, AJ and Devontae need to have big games and let Jahan get his revenge. They gave up on him, so I don't press and don't force, but let Jahan get involved in this game too. And our final key to the game, I think this is something that we saw some glimpses of last week. You just got to play smart and take care of the football. I'm not saying don't turn the ball over because going 4 games in a row without a turnover, it's not going to happen all the time. But that fumble that he had last week, Jalen's sometimes known for having stupid turnovers. No stupid turnovers. You can't give these guys chances or any type of belief that they can win this game. No dumb penalties either. Just play smart football. And this game should be close. So I think those things are going to play a big role. Don't turn the ball over stupidly and no dumb penalties. Just play smart. And it goes back to what I said on defense. Do your job. I think if the Eagles can do those things, they should win the game. Now, for the pick, it's going to be a convoluted pick here, and you'll see why in a minute. We're 5-4 on the year. Now, I think the Eagles win this game, but I mentioned that spread is 3.5, and That's tough. Even last year, both games against Washington were close. I think the Eagles won the first one in Philly by a field goal in overtime, and they got lucky to do that. And then I think in D.C., they won by 6 or 7. So this game will be close. I don't know if the Eagles win by 3.5. So for the official pick, I'm taking Washington minus or plus the 3.5 and hoping that I'm wrong. I'm going to be actively rooting to lose this bet, but I do think there's some money to be made here. The over-under, like I said, is 48.5. I think that's low. I think both games last year both teams scored in the 30s in both games. I think both teams offensively are better than what we were last year. So, I mean, I think it's going to come down to which defense can make a play. But I see this game 31-28, 27-24, in that range. I think it's going to be a field goal game either way. So I like the over as a bet as well. But here's where you can make some money. I do think the Eagles win this game. I think it's going to be close. I wouldn't mind, and this is probably how I'm going to bet this game. Obviously, I'll do the official bet like I always do, just to keep it consistent and take Washington plus the 3.5. But I like a same game teaser, taking the Eagles, flipping that around to Eagles plus 2.5, and then teasing the over down, so it would be 42.5. I think the game flies over 42.5. So if you want to put some money on it, haven't been so good with the official picks, but some of the extra picks, I made some money on the A.J. Brown anytime touchdown and or I guess it was Devontae Smith, and then the Jalen Hurts the one game. So if you want to put a little extra action in. But the official pick, I'm taking Washington plus the 3.5. However, Eagles will win this game and have a 1.5 lead, essentially a 2-game lead in the division. But it's not going to be easy. I was listening at the gym this morning. All the callers are calling in, talking 7 to 14 point Eagles win. I would love to see that. I just don't. I think Washington's a lot closer to being a good team than what we think, and I just don't. I don't see this being a blowout, and I expected Washington to be tough this year. I didn't expect it this soon, so this should be one hell of a game to watch. But those are our 3 keys to the game. That's the official pick. I do like the same game teaser with the Eagles and the over. I mean, if you want to get crazy and tie it in, I wouldn't mind if you want to do it the other way, tease Washington up to 9.5. I don't see this game being more than a touchdown either way. So there's some different plays for you. But that leads into the question of the day. Ultimately, who do you got? Give me your predictions. 267-495-8531. That gets you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off of your chest. Give your predictions, breakdown of the game. Want to talk Sixers? I don't know why you would, but if you want to talk Sixers, that's all fair game. But let me know your picks. 267-495-8531. All right, speaking of the Sixers, no Joe, no PG last night. And they lost. Cleveland came into the game 12-0, 114-106. Sixers lost. However, watching this game, I liked what I saw. They finally played with some effort, some grit. They were hustling. They played some scrappy defense, and they had I think it was like a 6-point lead at halftime. So they didn't play bad. It's just without your top 3 stars, it's going to be hard for any team to win that game. Jarrett McCain impressed. He had 34. I really like the way he's progressing here. I know it's early, but I think the Sixers got a good pick here. I don't like the rumors I'm hearing that he is being shopped as a potential trade. I don't know. I think you have a good piece there with him and Maxey moving forward in the future. I think it's way too early to give up on him, so we'll see what happens with that. Does look like Joe and Paul George will play tomorrow night in Orlando. I think that game's in Orlando. But I just want to see more effort and energy. Hopefully they can take what they did last night, translate that with Paul George and Joel. But I do want to mention this is a big week for the Sixers. They've been, if you haven't been following, the stadium debate has been in city council, and when asked if they would give more money for community involvement, the Sixers said they would not. That right now seems to be the sticking point for the community development and how they're going to help the businesses out during construction. So it's a big week, but shout out to Scott from Ben Salem, who checked in on the Back to the Future text line saying that the Sixers are close to losing the city, and I could not agree more. I mean, they're with the way they're playing, and then this whole arena deal, and I think it might behoove the Sixers to give them a little bit more money for the community involvement if they really want to put that stadium downtown. I've been on record and will go on record. I think it'd be a great thing for the city. I think it would be, I'd be more likely to go to more games because the train takes you right there. But as always and as someone who lived there almost 20 years, sometimes the residents of Philly tend to get stuck in their ways and can't get out of their own way when it comes to change, and they resist it. So this is a huge week for the Sixers in more ways than one. I think tomorrow's game is going to be huge because obviously you don't have Maxey, but I need to see more out of Joe. Even if they lose, I want to see, like last night was promising. But even if they lose tomorrow night with those guys, I want to see better effort, cleaner basketball, or else seriously at this point we might be having a conversation that maybe we just shut down Joe for the season, tank like the Spurs did when they got Tim Duncan, and then look ahead to next year. I don't know, but Sixers lost last night to the Pacers without their three top starters, so I mean it's a tough game to have to win. And then the Flyers are in action tonight out in Ottawa. Hopefully they can continue their good play. And again, we have these teams, our winter sports teams. I'm just looking right now, specifically with the Flyers, for the grit and the effort and all of that stuff. So Flyers, Ottawa tonight. But the big game is Eagles-Washington down at the Linc, Thursday night football. All right, today, this is appropriate for an Eagles-Washington day. We're going to go back to 1999. And on this day in 1999, the Eagles beat Washington at the Vet 35-28 in number 5, Donovan McNabb's first career start. After we suffered through the 2-7 Doug Peterson era, the Donovan McNabb era officially kicked off on this day in 1990. And all Donovan did was give us hope. He didn't necessarily play particularly well from a numbers standpoint. He went 8 for 21, 60 yards, 9 rushes for 49 yards, but he led drives, got them into field goal range, and was able to come away with the victory. Had a little bit of help from Deuce Staley, who had 122 yards and a touchdown. Allen Rossum returned a kickoff for a touchdown, and that defense under Jim Johnson started to play pretty well. They forced 6 turnovers, sacked Brad Johnson 4 times, and that was the difference in the game, giving Donovan McNabb a win in his first ever NFL start. For Donovan, he had much brighter days ahead, but it all began on this day in 1999. The number 5 Donovan McNabb era kicked off on this day with a 35-28 win over Washington down at the Vet. If you remember, the sign man from the Vet always had the long sign banners. His sign said finally, and finally Donovan got the start, gave us a glimpse of what was to come, and that all kicked off on this day in 1999. Wouldn't mind seeing a 35-28 Eagles win tonight as well. But Donovan got his first NFL start, ending the Doug Peterson era in Philadelphia. But we all know Doug would come back, finish the story, and lead us to a Super Bowl. All right, also on this day in sports, I thought this one was pretty cool, and I would love to see, and I don't even know if they could do this now contractually, but in both the Inquirer and the Daily News, there was an ad that Fox 29 was running, and essentially the fans could call in, vote on which game they wanted to see in the 4 o'clock window. I guess the Eagles were playing that week on CBS, and they said, well, which game do you want to see? It was Dallas, Arizona, Giants, Washington, or the Rams, Niners. I would love to see that because there's some times where Fox tells us what the national game of the week is, and I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch the other. And I know it's different with all of the different streaming plans and Sunday Ticket and whatnot, but I thought this was a pretty cool thing that I don't remember. I read the paper every day back then. I don't ever remember this, but I thought that was pretty cool. Would love for something like that to come back, especially on the NBA. There's some games on TNT that I'm like, I don't really want to watch this game. I'd rather watch this one. Anyway, Theo Ratliff made his season debut on this day. He went... he was injured to start the season. Sixers beat the Bucks 93-90 to improve to 3-4. They were still 1 year from that magical run, but Theo Ratliff made his debut, and it was, again, he made the difference in that game, and it was another sign of things to come. That 2001 Sixers run was just so much fun. The Flyers were in first place in the Atlantic Division, leading the Devils. They would go back and forth that year. This is the year they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I believe this was the Lindros year where he got the concussion from Scott Stevens. And then it was announced on this day that North Philly's own, or it wasn't announced on this day, but there was a big write-up on it. North Philly's David Reed was going to take on Felix Trinidad March 4th for the WBC Super Welterweight Championship. We'll have more on that once we get into March. And then the other, this wasn't on the sports page, it was in the business section, but since we talked Sixers Arena, I felt this was appropriate too. Everyone was anxiously awaiting the announcement on where the new Philly stadium was going to go. If you remember, David Montgomery and Ed Rendell were really trying to get that stadium either in Chinatown, right around where the Sixers are building their arena. There was talk about putting it down on Spring Garden and Delaware Ave. But it just appeared that it was going to end up going in South Philly. That's what the expectation was. They weren't able to get the downtown ballpark. And just reading the article in the business section from this day in 99, lots of similarities between what was going on. Same community fighting getting the Philly Stadium there are the ones still fighting the Sixers Arena. So again, it might behoove the Sixers to maybe give a little bit more cash to the community development aspect of that if they really are serious about getting in there. But all that was happening on this day in 1999. But the big story, Donovan McNabb made his first NFL start, beating Washington 35-28. Didn't have particularly good numbers, but he had command of the offense, and it was a sign of things to come. Sixers lost last night, but we will see Joel and Paul George tomorrow night. Flyers up in Ottawa tonight, but it's all about Eagles, Commanders. Who do you got? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Keys to an Eagles victory: contain Jaden Daniels, limit the damage he does to you with his legs. Take advantage of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They both could go over 100 yards today, and then build a lead and just pound it with Saquon and play smart football. No dumb turnovers. Don't fumble it and lose 10 yards like you did last week. Don't throw stupid passes and play smart. No good penalties. The Eagles should win, but our official pick is we're taking Washington plus the points, Eagles to win the game. I gave you a couple same game teasers you could do as well. But let me know your picks. Who do you got? Break down the game. Let me know your thoughts. Get in on the Back to the Future voice and text line, just like Scott from Ben Salem. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for November 14th, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday, and until next time, go Birds.